Hello, we're back with Sean Jordan of StrataPress to talk about property managers and strata councils and clarifying those roles. Hey, Sean.
Hello. Good to be
Great
back.
to have you back for this one. This is a great topic. We've touched on roundabouts of this in other sessions, and it's one that just keeps coming up. So delighted to have you here. Obviously, StrataPress works with a range of self managed and managed communities to help them manage their documents and their communications. And you've got a lot of direct experience within the space, even as a Strata Council president. So, Sean, great to have you back.
Thank you. Glad to be here talking about this. So just drawing from my own experience, plus, working with strata managers and strata owners the last, 10 years, put together a list of things that can be clarified as far as what the roles are between a manager and a council and keep everybody happy and manage expectations. So, yeah,
And
clarifying
that's
roles.
really what a bunch of it's about, right? I mean, making sure that everyone knows what each is supposed to be doing because they perform very complementary services. And, in some senses, the manager is kind of an extension of the volunteer strata council.
Yeah.
So, yeah, take it away. Let's go to this
All right.
first one.
Well, the number one, well, good to go back to the clarifying roles just to introduce it. The number one
Yeah.
misconception, strata managers are in charge of a strata corporation. In reality, the strata council governs the corporation and makes official decisions under the Strata Property Act. So the manager is really just an advisor and administrator hired by the council to carry out those decisions. So both are essential, but the responsibilities are not the same. The council is a governing body elected by the owners, and it carries the legal authority and fiduciary duty under the Strata Property Act. And the strata manager, on the other hand, is hired by the council under a management contract to provide services and administrative support. So to keep these roles from being blurred, councils might rely too heavily on managers for decisions, or managers may expect to take on maybe expect to take on authority they do not have. So that can lead to frustration and conflict and even liability. So yeah, first one is under the authority of the Strata Property Act, councils are established under the Strata Property Act to have legal authority to govern the strata corporation, and managers are not granted that authority by the act. Their authority comes only through delegation from the council. So, again, this distinction ensures owners maintain democratic control over the corporation and decisions aren't made without their knowledge. That's a big one.
Big one.
Decision making power, exactly that. Council pass resolutions and make binding decisions at meetings, and managers cannot create policy or make governing decisions on their own. So the managers are there just to carry out decisions of the council, which keeps accountability with the elected members of the council. So
How do council make decisions between meetings?
they can have discussions, through our platform. They can have discussions, create polls, get some feedback. Nothing's official as far as voting goes with council and bylaws and big things, but things to maintain the property, make decisions about um, contractors they use, or what they want to do with common space. So that stuff you can do through just communicating through a, like I said, we provide on StrataPress a central platform for doing polls and discussions amongst council members, and so they can make those decisions ahead of talking with the management, or in the process of talking with the management and getting the right direction.
That makes sense. And obviously, the strata council and the property manager have to make decisions on responding to emergencies on the fly.
Yeah.
How much control do they have over that, and what is their course of action? Are they supposed to call a meeting?
Emergencies? They could have some emergencies outlined. I don't think there's anything in the act that addresses that. I could be wrong, but they could have procedures in place, either with just their as what their responsibilities are as a council. I don't even know if that needs to be in the bylaws, but yeah, some emergency decisions will have to be made, and they're made by the council.
And
Uh,
they'll get ratified at the next council meeting.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking even, shorter term things cost wise, if there's broken irrigation lines or other damage, repairs to elevators that have to be done, and quick decisions have to be made. Could be made, but part of what this presentation does cover is uh, some of those decision making powers. They
Great.
really come down to the council. So,
Great.
and that carries over into fiduciary uh, decisions as well. Councils have a legal obligation to act honestly and in the best interest of all the owners, not themselves. So managers don't carry any fiduciary duty. They are a service provider to perform work based on contract terms. So council must always make final calls because the duty of the corporation cannot be outsourced to somebody else to make those decisions for them. They have to direct
Interesting.
the managers. Yeah, in my experience, I have councils, new volunteers come on board and they would um, assume that the property manager just takes care of everything. But really, it comes down to you have to direct the property manager, the strata manager, of what the council's desires are. So
Excellent. Yeah.
it's in their hands. So and that comes down to decisions, hiring, and contracts. Who they're working with. Owners tend to believe the manager handles all maintenance directly, but managers can coordinate vendors and obtain quotes, but only council can approve the work, especially when costs exceed budget authority. So council hires the strata manager, signs the management agreement. Agreement sets out the scope of services, authority limits, and reporting obligations. And but these decisions with working with vendors and so on, those are in the hands of the council to either you have an existing contract, you renegotiate the contract, renew it, or terminate it. That's the decision of the council. So all the
Right.
property manager can do is provide you some. Here's some companies you can work with.
Yeah. Quotes and context, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So and financial management, councils will often expect managers to decide how money is spent or to approve invoices. Managers just prepare budgets and provide advice, but council must approve the budgets. They must authorize the expenditures and ensure compliance as well. Actually, thinking about compliance, that thing with the vendors, when it comes to actually having the work done, I should have mentioned there is, the property manager is not going to come out and inspect the work necessarily. They don't have time for that kind of thing. So it's up to the council to take a look at the work that was done by the vendors. If it's a repair job or landscaping or installation of something, then that should be in the hands of the council to review that stuff. So comes
Makes sense.
around. Yeah, I should mention that. So approving budgets again with financial management, reviewing monthly financial reports. That's council's responsibility. Managers will handle accounting tasks and record keeping and collections and issuing payments, but almost everything else there is in the hands of the council. They're ultimately responsible for financial oversight and compliance. So again, they're just instructing the strata manager and what their desires are.
That makes sense.
And at any time, you can ask for guidance, to do this. And we would do that with a great strata manager we worked with. And you could ask her anything, and she says, "Well, these are your choices of what you can do." When she was chairing a meeting, and give us options of what we could do when we're stuck on something we weren't familiar with. So that's why it's great to have a strata manager on hand at meetings, for instance.
Especially one that gives you those options and is willing to educate you on what you might do and
Yeah,
empower you to make those decisions.
that's right. And was open to providing advice, but would never give us, this is what you should do type thing. These are your choices, pros and cons, discussion that, takes place, and then you make your decisions.
Oh, that's interesting. Uh, the financial element and keeping track of all those payments does require some dedicated effort. If you're self-managed, currently you'd need to have someone, your treasurer or another Strata Council member, undertake that activity.
Yeah. And this is probably the financial management is probably one of the greatest benefits of working with a professional management company because this is a tough area. Not a lot of people have experience with it. If you happen to be self managed and you have somebody with some accounting background experience, that's a treasurer, that's a bonus, but that's not always the case, especially in smaller stratas. So we're, trying to introduce something like that into the platform where we manage the StrataPress in providing some accounting, and we call it
Great.
more bookkeeping because we're keeping track of the records, but it's not producing, it's producing reports so you keep track of your expenses and everything, but it's not a super in-depth accounting program where you're issuing checks and following the money and stuff like that. That's kind of done separately. But within a professional management company, they'll take care of all those for you, all the accounting side of things. So that's where I think they'd be more independent because they're taking the numbers that are coming into them and just making it organized and readable, give you a month-end financial report, see where your budget's at ongoing.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Bylaw enforcement. Many owners assume the strata manager enforces bylaws, where in reality, only the council can decide whether a bylaw has been violated and what action to take. So in this case, the manager's role is administrative. They'll send notices, they'll track fines once the council directs it to do so. So council must also decide whether a bylaw violation exists and what enforcement steps to take with that. And the manager will follow up when instructed with sending notices, tracking fines, and maintaining the records.
Great. Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. I think that's widely misunderstood.
Yeah. So enforcement does still remain in the council's decision. Again, to avoid unlawful delegation of duties. So again, manager's role is administrative. They'll send the notice, they'll track the fines, take care of that. But it's up to the council to decide what bylaws to enforce and where. And with the bylaws, one other thing, when it comes down to those responsibilities, council might just assume that the management takes care of it, and so they'll, when there's a problem, they'll automatically say, well, let's create a rule, and then we can just manage it with this rule, which could become a bylaw. Thing is, with the rules, you're the council, you have to enforce those. So I always put it back to the council members: if this rule is really important, or if it's a kind of a one-off thing, we got to enforce this. So if it's something that requires ongoing enforcement, it's like we're as a council have to enforce this. So if you don't want to be following up on this every time this incident happens, we don't want to create a rule because there's nobody else going to be enforcing these things.
That
And that's
makes
when
sense.
everybody kind of rethinks, okay, well, maybe we don't really need a rule for that little thing, that minor, cutting through the pathway on the corner of the property or whatever it might be. So it's got to be something substantial that requires a rule because you do have to enforce those things.
And sometimes you may find that instead of a rule, you could enforce it with better communication.
Yeah, communication's very important. Um, Owners will often see the managers as the main voice of the strata. So even though managers can distribute updates and notices, the council's responsible for informing owners of decisions and maintaining transparency. So the council is responsible and accountable to the owners. They must report on decisions and actions. So managers often serve as the first point of contact on day-to-day issues, but councils should not rely entirely on managers to communicate, as transparency in a council is a governance duty to the council. So again, it's more, and again with StrataPress, communication channels are available from the management company or any council member. So it's built that way for these reasons, that it's really on the council to make sure that the strata owners are informed on decisions the council is making and not rely necessarily on the management to do that. They're busy, they're going to do the administration side of stuff. Communication with owners is, I think, I believe, more on the hands of the council to make sure everybody's informed and they're the liaison with the management on everything else there.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. And it's
Yeah,
nice to have those tools available.
yeah, and it's not that difficult, having transparency, having a platform that'll take care of those things for you and track stuff and keep it all as part of the official record of communication. So, and
Well, we hear consistently about how a lack of transparency can really undermine a community's sense of harmony and their understanding of the issues
right.
because often those that are engaged, given the opportunity to join strata council meetings or to participate, are much more understanding of situations.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. Which communication helps avoid conflict in the first place, but conflict resolution frequently expects strata owners expect the manager to solve interpersonal or bylaw related disputes. So managers can only really facilitate or document the process and have no authority to impose outcomes. So this lies with the council, and if needed, the civil resolution tribunal, if you need to go that far. Um, I've been in situations, most often somebody will contact the council about noise related complaints. Somebody walking with their shoes up above their suite with a hardwood floor and dogs running around or cats, excuse me, those type of things. Cats aren't so much a problem, but dogs running around. So they would ask us to, send a letter and such. And it's like, well, that's not really the council's responsibility. We're not here to dispute to manage disputes between owners. There's other channels for that. Civil resolution tribunal or having a mediator come in. So strata management can help with that stuff. They can organize meetings, provide advice, keep records, but they don't arbitrate or decide outcomes. So council must resolve conflicts to maintain authority and owner trust. That's the reason you want to do it. Um, but at the same time, it's the council's duty is to the common property and keeping repair and maintain the assets for everybody's best interest. Disputing, doing conflict resolution is not anybody's favorite thing to do, and it's not on the property manager necessarily to resolve disputes. Put it that way. There's other
No.
channels for that that are you will likely get you better outcomes. So
Finding
mediation,
ways to de-escalate those situations, though, before it gets to the point of
yeah,
being a CRT claim is obviously optimal. Everyone has to keep living with their neighbors, so long as they're in the community, and having those resolved amicably is always better than having it go to CRT or
yeah.
further.
And council could put together, have a meeting about what you want to do about dispute resolution if there's things that constantly come up within the community, so that you have some guidance and some consistency. So you can say, well, noise complaints, based on this, if it's a dog or children or whatever it might be, look at what you can do and what you can offer for resolution. And you can be consistent that way. And that would just be information that's handed from council to council and so on. Because
Good point.
escalating it costs money, time, people are volunteers, and it's not
A
the council's responsibility to solve all those
Absolutely.
personal.
And it can create that animosity as well when you're seen as being involved in those
Yeah,
processes or escalating in that way, so
yeah, and a good manager will have some remedies as well, as far as that goes. Liability and accountability. So councils, as elected representatives, bear liability for decisions in compliance with the Strata Property Act. Managers are accountable for fulfilling contract duties, but are not legally liable for council decisions. So understanding this, understanding a liability protects both councils and managers from overstepping roles. So just make sure you're aware of what your manager's accountable for on the contract, and and that'll keep things pretty clear. And they'll be pretty clear with you as well about that type of thing. And you could probably ask a property manager about any of these points and they'll clarify where their position is on it. Some may, as a point of service, offer additional services we go over here that could help. But for instance, understanding what the we'll go through this at the end. There's some list points there from the strata manager's side where we can
right.
clarify what the roles are.
No,
But yeah,
that's a good point. I think that when you've got this situation, you do see sometimes situations escalate through CRT or even to the Supreme Court. And when they
mhm,
do go to that level, often the strata manager is removed as a defendant from those cases because they are not accountable or do not bear liability for the decisions that are affected by council. So this is a really great point.
yeah.
Okay.
So boundaries, expectations. So again, owners assuming managers are in charge, which is incorrect. Council's got to set boundaries by clearly defining the responsibilities in the management contract and in the meeting with owners, so that everybody understands what their roles are. And I think that's important for the strata manager, the property manager, that the council is informed on what their roles are. So there's not just an automatic assumption that they'll take care of this, they'll take care of that. Just send it to them. that's not always the case. So it comes from the council, the direction from to the property manager. So clear expectations, reduce conflict, improve efficiency, and strengthen the working relationship so everybody's happy about what they're doing.
And again, communication. I think understanding as an owner that your strata manager is responsible in all likelihood for 12, 15, 20, or more strata communities, depending on their size and the nature of the firm, means that they are not able to provide all the service that someone who doesn't understand that might expect.
No, exactly. And these things can go on for a long time. So, okay, five misunderstandings. These will just cover the top five from what we just talked about. Strata councils hold the legal authority to govern, enforce bylaws, approve spending, communicate decisions, and resolve disputes. So, just go
Right.
through these. Bylaw
First,
enforcement. The belief is the strata manager enforces bylaw. Reality, only the strata council can decide on violations and enforcement. So, the manager can issue letters and track fines as directed.
perfect.
Financial decisions and budgeting. Strata manager, but the belief is the strata manager controls spending and sets budget. The reality is the council approves budgets, levies, and expenditures. The manager prepares reports, collects fees, and pays invoices once approved. And they'll help you develop a budget as well.
Fantastic. Number three.
Maintenance. Yeah, maintenance and repairs. Belief is strata managers handle all maintenance issues. And the reality is the council sets maintenance priorities and approves spending. The manager obtains quotes and coordinates work after a council approval.
Excellent.
Communication. It's number four. Belief is the strata manager handles all communication with owners. The reality is the council must report decisions, maintain transparency, ensure accountability. The manager assists by distributing updates and notices through our platform. Either the strata manager or the council can distribute updates and notices, and everybody gets informed.
And it goes even further than that because you can make sure that everyone's received it
Yeah.
and
On
who's
top of that,
reviewed it.
yeah, that's it's a one great asset with StrataPress is that all these notifications that go out are tracked to all the individual owners because they can see if they've been received, they've been bounced, they've been opened, been read, that type of thing. So yeah, important.
Yeah, that helps.
Mhm. And then number five, dispute resolution and complaints. The belief is the strata manager settles owners and bylaw disputes. And the reality is the council conducts hearings, makes enforcement decisions, and may refer matters to the Civil Resolution Tribunal. The manager supports by organizing and documenting. So,
How often is it, Sean, that a civil resolution tribunal matter gets referred by the strata council rather than by an owner who's got a grievance?
oh,
Is it common or?
a good question. I think I don't know that, but I would imagine more is filed from the strata owner side. Um, but I don't know that for sure. I'm just looking at cost wise.
Yeah,
The council's not quick, and volunteers aren't going to be quick to like jump into something like that with their time and money. It's probably more there on the defensive side more often than not.
more often than not,
It's a
but
good
there are going to
question.
be cases where there's a troublesome owner that is ignoring bylaws or not paying their fines, and there's processes that have to be gone through. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, but in that same time, they can issue those fines and bylaws and enforce them. They wouldn't need the tribunal necessarily to do that. It- like I said, maybe it comes back to like feeling wronged.
Yeah,
It's more the wait a sec, that's not right. The owner is saying back to the council who has a board and you're a single owner, you need some support there. I don't know, but
yeah, no,
we're looking
good
at that.
point. Excellent.
All right, this one's for the strata managers. Just so they know, this is what I hear from them over the years. The top five complaints from strata managers with regards to how councils treat them. Number one, I will go up the list. Number one, unclear or changing direction. So councils give conflicting instructions or reverse decisions after work begins. So this creates confusion and wasted effort. Micromanagement, council members interfere with day-to-day administration, contacting vendors directly or owners directly without coordination. That creates conflict for sure. Um, Unrealistic expectations, number 3. Councils expect immediate action, legal advice, or services outside the management contract, such as dispute mediation or project supervision. That's not in the contract. So, you're putting the property strata manager in the corner there saying, we need this done, but that's not part of the contract, not part of what the services they're providing. Poor communication. So councils fail to provide clear meeting minutes, documented approvals, or timely responses, leaving managers to guess what the council wants. So that's not good. And number 5, blame for council inaction. Council delays decisions, but let owners believe the manager is responsible. So this just damages the manager's reputation and erodes trust with the residents. So those are the things you want to avoid to keep your property manager happy and happy working with you.
And you
So
want a happy strata manager.
you absolutely.
This is good. One that feels like their input and involvement is valued, and that they're respected, is going to be more engaged and more responsive to your community when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, if you've ever seen a Google review for a strata manager, you'll see that half the items in the list, and as with everything, the reviews on strata management tend to be either really good or really bad. Um, it's half the really bad ones are really not the strata managers doing. They're things that are bothering residents that are not part of what the strata manager can control.
Yeah.
Um, and that's very difficult. So, as an owner, good to have some respect for your strata manager and to do what you can to understand a situation before escalating it to a complaint or something further. And having, I think, just that healthy appreciation for how much they're trying to juggle.
Yeah.
Tough job. Tough
And
job.
have that contract on hand for all council members to review, new council members especially. Read the contract, see what's outlined. It should be very clear from the property manager's side what services they're offering for the cost, and what's your responsibility as a council member. So hopefully this clears up a little bit of misunderstandings. I think those are the biggest points um, that can be covered in happy
I'd
management.
say so.
Yeah, keep
Yeah.
your manager happy. They're hard
Amen.
to get in the first place, so you wanna keep them happy, keep them on board.
So we've had a question come in. I'm going to throw it up here for you. Um,
Yeah, so do you recommend the council publish its standards for decision making and budgeting, exceptions, boundaries, bylaw enforcement standards, or communicate them through in-person meetings like town hall? I would I think from if it was me, I'd probably publish the standards for decision making and budgeting expectation. And at the same time, you can have those as standards, have them a reference for consistency. I don't know if they become part of the bylaws for how those are decisions are made. I don't think you can do that. I'm not sure, but I think you should have some kind of guidance. I've talked before about having a welcome package for new council members that should cover this information, and then it's consistent from council to council. You do them in town hall meetings. It'd be great to vocalize that, but I think it should be written down and be part of a welcome package for a new council member. That this is our what we do for decision making in these type of situations, and that'll
Really
help the
good
next
question.
council. Yeah, great question.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, John. And Sean, good answer. I think that's a good approach. I think that the more stratas choose to put together the welcome package and inform their owners of what's expected of them and how the community works and all of those nice to know things that otherwise an owner might take weeks or months to discover about the way that a community operates would be helpful. And
Yeah,
obviously, help them all appreciate what's going on in the management of their community, because if you are an owner, you're reliant on the board, the volunteers that form your strata council to manage your community. Every community needs at least 3 of them, and obviously, the more, the better.
yes.
Um,
And one other thing with the strata managers, a good strata manager, I don't even really notice them at council meetings unless there's something that you need to inquire and they're off there in the corner. Yep, you can do this or do that. I think they're like referees in a game. They should be almost invisible to the point until you need a decision made as far as where do you go as a council. But otherwise, though, they're to be quiet, help you, chair your meeting, and help you with direction of decision making. but not making decisions for you.
Wonderful. A really important topic. Sean, thanks for joining us today to clarify it all. Anyone who's looking to learn more should jump onto StrataPress, see how you can leverage their communication capabilities
Absolutely.
and get those benefits, whether you're self-managed or you've got a professional manager.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. And that's what we're here for. I want to provide transparent communication, avoid conflict, give people access to information they need timely, and keep the communication channels open for sure. Thanks a
Perfect.
lot.
Thanks,
All right.
Sean. We'll have you on next month.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.